So what would you advise to someone who's trying to leave the job, start a business?
You got to be a little more fearless. You got to step outside your boundaries. You got to expose yourself, take rejection.
Was the initiation of doing a business because of the calling, or was it more because you wanted to make it big, or you wanted to go for the pot of gold?
See, I always told myself that I would want to give myself one chance, to step out of that comfort zone, give it a go. It never, see, 99% of businesses are known to fail.
But the pressure is more, isn't it?
The pressure is quite a bit. I think entrepreneurship is just about the art of making things possible. You have amazing highs. You also have crazy lows.
Have you had these bouts of dark episodes within
All
these
the time. All the time, yeah. I had this message above my desk which said, what would you do if you had no fear?
I'll take a break probably, yeah. No, I'll take a break and I'll take a break. Yeah. Hello and welcome to the SOS podcast. Recently एक survey देख रहा था मैं और this was a survey done by Randstad Work Monitor and they were surveying the employees of India. And as a surprise, or maybe not as a surprise, 83% of the people said they want to do a business of their own. They want to get into entrepreneurship. Now, that's what the topic is for us today. We have Mathew Koshy with us, the co-founder of Sunfuel Electric. And we'll talk to him about how did he get into a business, how did he start his own business after having done almost 15 years of corporate work life and having spent a considerable amount in the industry. We'll also talk about a little about how is the electric ecosystem developing in India and how is that coming up. Yeah. So hi Mathew, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Hi Shubham, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. It is lovely to have you. And we must tell all our viewers that this is the first time we're doing an offline podcast. So thank you for being the first one to do it, for being a sport and coming up for this.
So happy to be here. Great set. Looks fantastic.
Lovely. So Mathew, like I said, 83% of the people in India said that they want to do a business. Was that something on your mind always when you started?
So Shubham, I'm clearly one of the 83%. And
Yeah.
obviously, I think everyone has this dying feeling of creating some sort of impact or a legacy when they leave, right? They want to have created something and have their fingerprints on something which they can call their own. So I'm not surprised at all with the number.
Right.
Everyone has that fear of stepping out and doing it. Everybody wants to do it.
Right.
But there is that fear,
Yeah.
which is
And
always
we'll talk about
there,
that fear
right?
because you rightly point out वो fear है जो बहुत चीजें करने में आपको रोकता है in life in general. But tell us honestly, manager के साथ लड़ाई या ऐसा कुछ तो नहीं हुआ था because of which you wanted to step out?
I think most people leave their jobs because of their bosses,
Yeah,
okay, to be honest.
Yeah.
But there is always that spark that people have,
Right.
when they see a successful entrepreneur making a mark, they believe, everyone has that self-belief that they can do something great
Right.
as well.
Right.
And it's just that when you're in large corporate, you feel that you're just one of the many.
Mhm.
And there is that inkling to try and make a road for yourself, right? Having said that, it's always something that one needs to be cautious about, right?
Right.
You have to look at your financial situation. You have to see there are people doing fantastic jobs as
Yeah,
well, right?
yeah,
Like I'm sure your background in consulting, it's not a job that everyone gets, and it's not something that you can leave behind very easily as well, because you've made a mark there, and you want to continue doing that.
Yeah.
So it's a very difficult decision, and sometimes I think people do it on impulse. Sometimes they do it when they find that they've got their calling.
How was it for you? Because I think that's a good point that you raised. Was it a calling for you? Because I know that you started Sunfuel Electric, which is basically installing EV charging stations across the country, right? So अगर मैं एक EV गाड़ी लेता हूँ तो मेरे को वो charge करना है while I'm traveling. You come in and you put up that infrastructure where I can charge the car, right? Or for that matter, any vehicle. This was something that you told me, I remember from our conversation before, that this was a calling for you. But was the initiation of doing a business because of the calling, or was it more because you wanted to make it big, or you wanted to go for the the pot of gold?
See, I always told myself that I would want to give myself one chance, to step out of that comfort zone, give it a go. It never, see, 99% of businesses are known to fail or
Yeah,
thing,
you're
but
right.
you want to give it that chance, right? And you keep a timeline, you think of a team, you think of people to do it with. When everything kind of fits in together, you take that leap of faith, right? I have a lot of interest in automobiles, and I believe that this is that one transition that I'm lucky to experience in my lifetime, right?
The transition from the petrol or the diesel engine vehicles to the ICE or the internal combustion engines to electric. Yeah.
I'm confident that in the next 10, 15 years, all vehicles are going to be electric.
Okay.
I'm confident.
Okay.
And so, one is my thesis that, this is what the future is going to be.
Yeah, that's your prediction for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, I'm absolutely sure in my mind, or I was at that time when we started. I found the right co-founders to start on this venture with, because it's a big task, and it needs more than just one person to be at the helm. We found people who thought that this could be an interesting idea. So you bounce it off a lot of people. You have your family. You
Yeah.
talk to them about
Yeah.
it. What they think is important. Uh, the support of my wife is important, because it is a huge transition for them as well, because they realize that suddenly you're on your own. And
Did she interview you before you started? Did she was she anxious, or was she nervous about it, or was she very sure? How
no,
was that discussion?
I think this discussion has been going on with us for a long time about moving to an entrepreneurial venture. It was just about what that would be.
Lovely. So you said that you've been doing this for about 4 years now, and you took about 15 years before taking this leap of faith. For some time, I've realized that there are two instances in a man's life, or in any person's life, to be able to take that plunge, to take that leap. One is right after you graduate or whatever, postgraduate, before your marriage, because you have very limited amount of responsibility on your shoulders, as long as you're sorted from your family's side, right? Which I think you come from a background which gives you that freedom to be able to choose your career, right? And there's another point where you've done everything to settle up your family. You have two lovely kids, and you have two lovely dogs as well, who were very welcoming when I visited you, and obviously your wife.
They were all over you. Huh?
They're all
The dogs.
yeah. But Yoda was very, very cute. He sat next to me, and he was really good. So yeah. But these are the 2 points which
Yeah.
I think you can take that leap of faith, or that leap into the entrepreneurship. Was it you waited 15 years?
Yeah.
Was it the fear that you mentioned first, or was it the planning? Why did it take those 15 years for you to?
Honestly, in my case, I think it's more by chance.
Okay.
At the time that I graduated from university, so I did my undergrad in Xavier's Bombay, and it was an economic honors. It's not a degree where you can suddenly start making an app, or you can do something interesting with tech, etc. Right? So that was more built into, like, most of my colleagues would then get into banking, which I also did at that time, and I followed the path that most people traveled. Right? I didn't really take any chances, but I was fortunate that I was working with some of the top banks. So I worked with HSBC, HDFC Bank. So that helped me get that exposure in the corporate world, like to understand what is it that is required to actually succeed there. After that, I went and did my MBA in the UK, and soon after started working at this company called Philip Morris International.
Right.
And I spent 11 years there.
Wow. Okay.
Was posted in multiple countries, so I had this exposure of being in different locations. I think being in different places, getting exposed to different cultures teaches you a lot.
Yeah.
That journey was so fast that I didn't have the opportunity to step out. And then it's when I came back to India that I found that comfort that, I know that I have these people that I can reach out to. The network helps. You need to raise capital. So, having people, having access to people helps significantly. So that's the ecosystem, the entrepreneurial ecosystem that we talk about today, right? I think that has actually, over the last 8 to 10 years, is where that has, really started to grow in India. I think a lot of content coming out, educational content about people who've ventured out on their own, has really helped create that, aspiration that, we could be one of them.
Right.
We could, create our own future. I think that has helped a lot. Who knows whether we'll get there or fall in between, right? But so you need support along the way. I also needed to create some sort of financial backup for myself.
Yeah.
So I needed a bit of a runway, as we call it, before we took that leap of faith, because we didn't know whether we would have investors come in, and whether the idea would actually succeed. Because at the end of the day, when you start, it's just a PowerPoint that you go out with, right?
Yeah.
And you got to convince people to come on your side and believe in your story. So that's pretty
how
much
did you plan that journey? That I'm sure you must be earning a decent salary. You were at a senior manager position at Philip Morris when you quit last.
That's right.
And you were taking care of a large portfolio where you were taking care of the loyalty program for the channel partners, right? Which is what I understand. So how did you make sure that you have a runway? And did you have a backing from your family's side in terms of the financial planning part of it, or was it all upon yourself to?
So having worked for about 15 years, I had sufficient runway. I knew that I could sustain myself with the same kind of lifestyle for about a year or so, even without any sort of funding from investors, etc. If the business didn't get where it was supposed to be.
Right.
And then it's, having that confidence from your immediate partner, which is your wife, and you just take that leap of faith. You have to do it at some point, right?
Right.
Some people need a runway of 1 year, some people need 6 months, some people need more than that, right?
Yeah.
But I always knew, I'm an educated professional. I always know that at the end of the day,
the economics finally came in to help.
Well, no, it's just that you always know that, look, you can always go and find another job if things don't pan out.
So that was the plan B? If it didn't work out, I'll go back to a job. Was that the thought at the back of your mind?
Yeah, of course. Okay. And there's no harm in doing that. I know.
And when do you say that? When do you take that call?
When you know that your idea is not working, investors don't believe in it, or the market doesn't perceive that what you see, it could be timing of the market.
Yeah.
It could be a whole load of reasons, right?
Yeah.
I think most people who have that work experience under their belt have that confidence that if things don't work out, they go back into industry. Right. So that's.
But you didn't have any experience of the electric business as such, because your experience with Philip Morris or HDFC Bank or the other companies that you worked with had nothing to do with what you are currently doing, right? So
not at all.
Was there a learning curve? So did you start before and prepared for it before taking that leap, or did you take the call and then started everything after that? How was that?
In my case, the learning curve is still steep. I'm still learning every day. There are a lot of new technology that comes up here. Battery sizes are getting bigger.
Right.
The speed of charging is getting faster, etc. So I'm still learning. No background in engineering, but I think entrepreneurship is just about the art of making things possible. You work with the right people.
Right.
It's very easy to get support where required. So I didn't find that to be a challenge. I mean, if I was an electrical engineer, would things be different? Maybe not.
Right.
Because we have a good tech team to support us.
Right.
We have the right people at the right job. So that doesn't, I don't see that to be too much of a challenge. And also the industry itself is evolving. So everyone is learning and relearning.
So you've gotten a lot of help. You're saying that help was always there.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I've started doing over the last 4 years is I just reach out to people without, fearing rejection, right? If I need some advice on something and I feel that this is the right person for it, I send the person a message, or even if it's through LinkedIn.
Right.
Because you'll be surprised as to the kind of support that you can get from someone just by asking.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's something that as an entrepreneur, you got to be a little more fearless. You got to step outside your boundaries. You got to expose yourself, take rejection. It's just a part of life.
Right. Yeah. At times, in fact, not times, but a lot of times we have this preconceived notion or this whole thing in our own mind that
Yeah.
मैं ऐसा बोलूँगा उसको
Yeah.
तो वो क्या सोचेगा और
Exactly.
कैसे respond करेगा.
Exactly.
I think you were able to break that. But has it anything to do with your growing up as a child? When you were growing up, was there an air of entrepreneurship, or was there something like that?
See, I come from a family where we're mostly professionals. So my dad's an architect. Most of his brothers are all professionals. So entrepreneurship was not really
In the
such a.
blood.
It was not in the blood, and it
Yeah.
was not something that was really encouraged. I mean,
Okay.
not that it was discouraged,
Right.
but it was not something that people talked about. You know, there are families where in the
Yeah,
evening
yeah,
it's
yeah.
business discussions.
Yeah, I
right?
come from
Ours-
a Bania family, and it's
Yeah,
heavy out here.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that was not the kind of discussions. Ours was always about, you know, having a professional job,
Right.
you know, working with an MNC,
Hmm.
being a chartered accountant, doctor, whatever. I mean, it was never thrust on us, but it was always respected, you know.
Okay.
We respected professionals, or at least my parents did, or
Right.
whatever. But it was, I think, like when I went to boarding school also, most of my friends came from professional backgrounds, etc. So there was not much discussion on business. But I think when we went to business school is when
Right.
a lot of these ideas got exposed. I was part of this entrepreneurial forum where we were learning things on the fly,
Right.
thinking of ideas, etc. Which that exposure really helped me. And one of the things that I really wish was that we had this kind of content when we were growing up, right? Like even just podcasts, right?
Yeah.
Talking to people that exposes, you know, the journey. And I think journeys are very inspiring.
Right.
And I wish we had a lot more of that. It would have helped me like take the plunge
Start
faster.
earlier. Yeah. So how did your life change? The life that you had as an employee, if I may call it that, or as a professional, to an entrepreneur, to a person who's handling a complete business. What were some significant changes for you? How did it change for you? And did you anticipate them?
No, I think I was definitely thrown into the ocean.
Yeah.
You know, you realize that the buck stops with you. You have to handle, you know, a 360 degree of different types of people, right? Whether it's vendors,
Right.
whether it's your employees, whether it's your investors,
Yeah.
whether it's your customers,
Right.
and when you can't hide under a large brand,
Right.
which as a corporate employee you're generally clued into a specific area,
Right.
and you still have the protection of the brand, which could be 10, 20, 30, 40 years old, right? This is completely new, especially in a new industry, right? You're
Right.
creating a name for yourself.
Yeah.
Everything is new, and you're trying to search for answers. It's a very interesting phase, actually, and I'm still there, right? And it's amazing, actually. I think when you're in that corporate environment, you always have to show the pretense that you know everything, because you want your managers and people who work with you to believe that you know everything. Here in entrepreneurship, it's okay. Yeah? Nobody knows anything. We were trying to figure it out. So I think that's a very significant change. It's not to be afraid of learning. It's not to be afraid of saying, I don't know. Like, someone help me, right?
Interesting, because you pointed a very weird yet interesting thing, because as an employee, probably everyone's trying to be the best of themselves, or
Yeah.
at least project themselves as the
Yeah.
best. And there's a certain amount of fear that comes in as to what if you come across as stupid.
Yeah.
But you're saying that as an entrepreneur, you do not have that fear anymore.
See, no one wants to come across as stupid,
Right.
but you're grappling with so many things,
Right.
You're just not expected to know it all,
Yeah.
right? See, I think when you're in a limited field and you're a doctor and you're a special doctor and you've trained for 10 years in a medical college,
Yeah.
you just feel like you cannot let yourself down by saying, I don't know.
Right.
Whereas here, if I don't know something about accounting, or if I don't know something about manufacturing, it's not expected that I know it all, right? So I seek help.
Right.
And it becomes so much more easier because you're not trying to project something on somebody. It is what it is. I think that's a really cool part of entrepreneurship. You learn so much. You learn how to fail,
Right.
You try something, you go to market, it doesn't work, scrap it, try something new. So
Right.
you could pivot. You have to be really nimble and fast about it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So
yeah.
the speed increases quite a bit. Is it about your decisions, about your steps that you take day in, day out? The speed is really high.
Of course. I think you can't really dwell on too many things for too long.
But the pressure is more, isn't it?
The pressure is quite a bit,
Mm-hmm.
but you have amazing highs. You also have crazy lows. So it's
Can you tell us about a high or a low that you probably had in the last 4 years?
so I think the high. I think my biggest high was actually finding the first investor who thought that we had a story going and
Right.
wanted to put wanted to back us without anything. It was just a PowerPoint presentation, right? I
Okay.
think
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it myself that we've come to a stage where someone believes that this story could actually come alive.
Right.
So I think that was great. Lows, we've had phases where customers are dissatisfied. There are problems on field,
Right.
and it's not a great feeling. It's a whole bunch of highs and lows, and
Right. But in a job, you can handle the pressure because I somehow feel that you have friends around, you have colleagues around. And I was speaking to you earlier. You had mentioned that, and I've heard this a lot of times as well, that it's very alone out there at the top as a doing a business as an entrepreneur. It's very alone. So how do you manage the pressure now?
this is one of the reasons why I always think that as a business owner, you should have co-founders.
Okay.
It's one of the things that I firmly believe in,
Right.
because nobody understands what you're going through other than these people who are completely involved in the business. I think that has really worked for me because I've got like three
Three co-founders. Right.
co-founders, and we share a lot of responsibilities. We share our problems. We share our happiness as
Right.
well.
Right.
So I think that's really important. It's
Right.
it's a pretty dark place at times, right?
Yeah.
When things don't go right, and there's a lot of pressure to do certain things the right way, and when things don't go the way you want it to,
Right.
there's nobody you could actually get support from. It's very important to have a family that understands
Right.
what you're trying to
Right.
achieve and backs you. I think that gives you a lot of confidence.
Have you had these bouts of dark episodes within
All
these
the
li-
time,
all
all the time.
Oh my
Yeah.
god. Okay.
So I really find that entrepreneurs go through very difficult phases at times, and they need to have something outside their work, a passion outside their work,
Right.
that can help them overcome these stages, because you got to go through this, otherwise people get into depression, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I use sport in a way, like I get up very
You
early in the
play a
morning.
lot of tennis.
I play tennis
you
every
told me,
morning
yes.
at 6,
Yeah.
and that helps me because I'm ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a time that I'm completely cut off from work, because I just focus on the game,
Right.
play with my friends,
Right.
and it's great fun. So I think that helps a lot, and
Right.
I think all entrepreneurs should. Co-founders is one thing I think is very important, and something outside work that
Yeah.
they really like
Right.
helps.
To dissipate that energy, that
Yeah,
negative dark
but I think
energy.
that's for everyone. I mean,
Yeah.
not
In
just
general also,
entrepreneurs,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I think entrepreneurs particularly should
Right.
have something. Yeah.
But with a job, it's always like a 9 to 5, a 9 to 7, 9 to 8, whatever, 9 to 10
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
With a business, how is it?
Um, it could be in phases, right? There are days when things are extremely crazy. There are days when you are able to find time for yourself. So it's all about the phases. It's about the time of year. It's about what's going on as such. So I think I'm able to find a lot more time for myself right now, because it's not mechanical. Nothing is mechanical, right? You have a meeting at 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay, till 11 you're fine.
Right.
Whereas at work, whatever the scene is, you go in at 9.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you may just spend your time sitting by the coffee table, but
So it's more
you're there.
flexible.
It is a lot more flexible.
But then flexible would also call in for a lot of discipline, because now there's no one to check on you, right? You are the check on yourself. So how do you maintain that discipline? You're not.
I think the business environment creates that discipline, because you are responsible to a lot of parties, like I said,
Right.
and and I want to ensure that people who are working with me are also dedicated. So we spend that time together.
Yeah.
So time just flies by.
Right. Right. So talking about that business part of it, because you say that it's a sunrise industry, like you said, and I agree because the EV market, we don't know where it's going to land up and how it's going to end up eventually. But their cost of running is extremely low as compared to ICE.
But a lot of people, when they look at the buying decision, right,
Yeah.
they look at the upfront cost.
Okay.
So while you might make up the total over the total life of the car, you will definitely make up
Right.
in an electric car. People still, at least this is the kind of market research that I've got, is that people still want to pay a lower price at the time that they have to put out money to purchase a car. So that's one of the
The
reasons
bulk
why.
money that anyone spending, they want to spend less of it as compared.
Yes, I think
Okay.
it's the people not thinking through the entire decision, right?
Yeah.
You need to think of the entire lifespan of the vehicle.
Right. Is that the only reason why you think the offtake of the electric vehicles is still slow? Because if I look at some 5 of my friends who recently bought a car, just about one is someone who has bought an EV.
That's a 20%, which I'm pretty happy to
hear.
Okay, but
an entrepreneur is always positive. Yeah. Nice. Yeah.
So look, I think when new technology has to be adopted, there's a transition time, and people are anxious.
Right.
People are not sure if it is the right thing. They may or may not have got a proper feedback from the market or their friends, etc.
Yeah.
People like to follow. They like to be comfortable in their peer group as well.
Correct. Yeah.
I think electric is the way to go because one, like I was talking about, the cost of ownership, it's about ₹1 a kilometer versus 10 for
10, 11, 12 rupees per kilometer.
For ICE. And it's super fast. It's
Yeah.
super fun to drive. Very few moving parts, so maintenance is also limited.
Correct.
Very quiet, no rattling.
Yeah, no noise.
So a lot of positives. I don't see any negatives except you don't want to be stranded when your battery doesn't have charge. So there is a term called range anxiety, which people have. But that is only when you travel outside the city. Otherwise, most cars offer 300 plus kilometers of range. So that isn't a problem within
300 kilometers is pretty decent. I mean, you would anyways find a charger today, at least, I think, in and around 300 kilometers of the metro cities, at least, in India.
Absolutely. Yes? I think almost every 50 kilometers you would find a charger.
Wow.
And within the city, even less. You will be surprised as to how many chargers there are. But again, like petrol stations, they're not easily discoverable. They're discoverable through an app. So you need to identify them through an app, etc. But I see all this coming together because now we are all digital, right? So once all this is plugged into Google Maps, it just becomes easy. It's just that the time for that ecosystem to come together, I think that's just a bit of transition time. But things are going to change.
I recently drove the Mahindra EV, which has this fearless mode. And oh my God, it was just crazy. I mean, it almost made me feel as if I'm in an F1 car. I don't know the actual feeling, but it was really, really fast. It was
the thrust, the pickup is insane.
Yeah.
In fact,
there's no ad for Mahindra, by the way. Genuine feedback. Yeah.
In fact, Mahindra is launching their new platform. It's called the B platform, BE, probably by the end of this month.
Right.
And they've really invested a lot of money in their electric division. And I think Tata has done a phenomenal job over the last few years. And Mahindra now is going to be a very, very competent competitor once this new portfolio is launched, which we're very excited about because I think a lot more people are going to switch to electric once this comes out because larger batteries, faster charging time.
So what would you advise to someone who's trying to leave the job, start a business?
I'd say if you're excited about an idea and you think you want to create an impact in that space, just do it. Do it early.
But how do you know that it's not going to be a foolish decision?
You never know. I still don't know if it's a foolish decision. You never know.
Yeah.
But
until you have failed or succeeded.
No one knows, right?
Interesting.
No one knows.
Right.
I see a lot of people who have ideas who talk about it a lot, but they don't take that first step. I would encourage them to take it, right? You learn when you take it only because till then it's just an idea. And ideas are, all over.
Yeah, correct. I know. I don't think... I mean, in fact, I should ask you that. Is the idea important?
In my opinion, an idea is not that important. I think it's all about execution, honestly. Because there are thousands of ideas, right?
Correct.
You can Google ideas.
Yeah.
So why
now you have ChatGPT.
And that's not the thing, right?
Yeah.
It's about executing. And executing is where you realize, okay, I need capital, I need people, I need technology, I need to learn this, I need to unlearn this.
Yeah.
That is when you actually get into the grind.
Right.
But if you don't take that leap of faith and do it and
Yeah.
put yourself in the mud,
Yeah.
you've always got these fancy ideas. I did too, right? For a really long time.
Yeah.
But I never had the guts to step out of my comfort zone and do it because, sometimes having that salary come in at the end of the month is...
It's very comforting, you know.
Yes, it is.
ठीक ही है यार, चल जाएगा, कर लेंगे थोड़ा time और.
It really helps.
Yeah.
So I think I wish I had the guts to
How
do
did
it.
you get the guts suddenly? Or how was it? I mean,
I think it was just cooking for a long time, and it was time to do it. It was now or never.
Right.
I reached that stage.
Right.
So I think for me it was that. But I would really think that if I had to do it all over again, I would do it in my 20s, like really early out of college.
Right. Any final comments, any advice to people who are still holding themselves back and not being able to take that plunge, take that leap?
I think everyone should, take a chance.
Right.
Give it a go.
Yeah. What's the worst that can happen?
The journey will be tough for sure. At least I've learned that the hard way. But you have fun while doing it.
Right.
Right.
Lovely. I think that's a wonderful message. What's the worst that can happen? Take that plunge. Go for it.
Yeah. In fact, when I started, we had this. It was COVID time, and I had this message above my desk which said, "What would you do if you had no fear?" Right?
What would you do?
If you had no fear.
No fear. Oh, okay. What would you do if you had no fear? Wow. Okay.
Yeah. What would you do?
Yeah.
What would you do? It's a question that I thought was amazing.
A nice question, yeah.
Because it kind of gives you the freedom to decide. Keep all the important factors, keeping that aside.
Right.
If you had no fear of financial obligations, other
I'll take a
responsibilities.
break, probably. Yeah. No, I'll take a break and I'll take a break.
That's a good answer, but I think it kind of gives you an opportunity to think about
interesting.
How you can unleash yourself from the virtual drama that we go through, right?
Right.
I think that's a really good question for everyone.
That's a wonderful question. I really love that question. What would you do if you had no fear?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Great, Mathew. Thank you once again. It was lovely having this conversation with you. Thank you for taking out time on a Saturday. But now that you're an entrepreneur, I don't think weekdays and weekends are any different for you.
It's
I don't
all
know.
the same.
Yeah. So thank you once again. It was lovely.
Thank you, Shubham.
Thank you.
Lovely being here.